Aligning product operations with business strategy is like navigating a ship through changing waters. If your compass isn't pointed towards the right and correct North Star, even the most skilled crew and the fastest vessel will end up at the wrong destination. I'm Webb, and after years leading product teams at Amazon, Just Eat and beyond, I've discovered that product operations leaders who excel at strategic alignment don't just support the business, they fundamentally transform how organizations make decisions and deliver value. And in today's episode, pioneering product ops leaders are going to be revealing their battle-tested approaches to strategic alignment that will accelerate both your organization's success and your own career trajectory. Now, this episode is brought to you by Productboard, the leading product management platform trusted by customer-centric organizations like Zoom, Salesforce, and Autodesk. And for over a decade, Productboard has helped product leaders build the right products faster by mastering the voice of their customer. Their end-to-end platform seamlessly connects every stage of product development, from gathering customer insights to planning roadmaps and underlining stakeholders, all in one source of truth. And now, with Productboard Pulse, their new voice of the customer solution, you can leverage AI to analyze customer feedback trends and accelerate your product career through data-driven decisions. And recently, the awesome Graham Reed and I dove deeper into these product ops strategies in an exclusive webinar with Productboard. Click on the link in the description below to watch the replay. Now, coming up in this episode, Graham Reed is going to be revealing why product ops must align with business direction to deliver maximum value and how the strategic mindset can differentiate you as a product ops leader. Then, the brilliant Justin Woods is going to be demonstrating how to develop weighted frameworks that properly evaluate true business impact, a transferable skill that makes you invaluable in any organization. And then the awesome Arnfeld is going to be breaking down the role of product ops as an insights enabler rather than just a decision maker, a crucial career distinction that can position you for greater influence. Then the always brilliant Katie Hudson is going to be sharing insights on maintaining consistency and accountability across the organization, showcasing leadership skills that get noticed by executives. And then we'll also be exploring how product ops serves as the critical connective tissue between departments, a role that can accelerate your path to senior leadership positions. Now, starting off today with you, Graham, many product operations teams struggle to demonstrate their value. Could you share how aligning product ops with business strategy is crucial for maximizing impact and how this alignment can advance your career?
Product ops has to be aligned to where the business is going. And in context of product operations, where we're looking at the improvements that we want to be making internally, how we want to be enabling and facilitating our teams, predominantly our product teams, but our teams to be as best as they possibly can, we need to understand what direction the business is going in. Everybody needs to understand the direction the business is going in anyway for what we're producing. But from product ops perspective, we need to understand where the focus is. Are we focused on pure growth? Are we just trying to constantly be bashing stuff out the door to keep getting the revenue in? Okay, that's fine. If that's what the business wants to do. So actually that helps us plan what things that we want to be focusing the product managers on. Do we want to really streamline the SDLC, the software development lifecycle, so that it's as smooth as possible? Data might not be quite as important right now. It's very top-down, founder-led. We'll just do what the founder asks, regardless of what the data says. It's not always a great business strategy, but if we understand the direction the business is going in, where it is at right now, that helps us focus on what we need to be doing and what the teams need to be doing as well. Otherwise, if you go in a different direction, you're not really meeting those business goals. You're not helping your teams meet those business goals, whatever they might be. The things that I'm suggesting are kind of edge cases. That's the sort of thing we need to be doing. We need to be understanding where the business is at, what the business sees as a priority as well for our ways of working across the business, where internally, operationally, are the business directives. And again, is that on better collaboration across the teams? Are we a very siloed business? As though we need to be helping our transparency, help our cross collaboration. We need to understand that in order for us to be able to be aligned on what we're doing and help those teams be aligned as well. I think in terms of spinning up product operations, I'm not fully understanding exactly where product ops adds most value, how it adds most value, how to best integrate it into the business. So actually, a couple of years ago, as product ops was really starting to gain, some momentum, what we were seeing, a wide variety of implementations across businesses. Some were what I would term as real product ops, being very strategic, really focusing down on those ways of working, facilitating and enabling those teams. Others were almost treating them as very entry level, almost kind of associate product manager, or even before product, almost a BA type level. And there's no disrespect to those roles at all. They all have their place. But asking them to do those sorts of roles, or doing things like first line triage, these are not where you get most value out of product operations. If that is what you need and want as a business, then it's a very different type of role. It's not product operations at all. Understanding what you need out that role, that function in a business is absolutely critical to getting this right. And having some amount of humility to going, we're not perfect as a business. We've got holes, we've got gaps. Our ways of working could be better. That's not a slight on anybody. That's not anybody's fault. These are just things that naturally come out, particularly in scaling businesses. These gaps will naturally appear. They are not because everybody has failed to do their job. It's because everybody's just too busy in making the business successful. Understanding that we've got to where we are, and now we need to narrow those gaps. We need to fill those holes. We need to do better. Is actually very positive. It's a great positive reflection.
That's an excellent point about understanding business direction to focus your efforts, Graham. I've seen firsthand how product ops leaders who master this alignment quickly become indispensable to executives. Now, over to you, Justin. You've developed a structured approach to evaluating ideas. How do you ensure they align with broader business goals in a way that truly showcases your strategic thinking?
What's important is to understand what ideas are worth. We get lots of ideas coming in. Ideas are free. Some of them can be fantastic ideas that we want to take further. And so I think it's important to understand, what does that actually mean for the company? What does that actually mean for the customer? Maybe developing a weighted framework, for instance, so that when ideas come in, you can say, well, what revenue do we think this will come in? What ARR? What's the customer tier? Start to do some segmentation around that, and then start to create a framework, maybe even a prioritization score, to help you understand your big wins versus what you can defer. We need to understand what your customers want at different levels. When you're building a SaaS product, you're building for many. We don't want to end up turning into a company that builds for one big whale client, and then your entire strategy gets waylaid by just being a service provider for them. It's important to think about your different contacts, your different or users of the applications, the organization they represent, and the entire segment. Start to understand the market at those different levels. It's about having a mini business case in some of these. Sometimes it can be very simple, but we want to make sure that we've done the rigor behind this. What's it going to save? And often putting it down to a common denominator is often really important. Money is the best one. Even if you're looking at efficiencies in time, maybe multiply that by man-hour cost and then come down to money. But within a business, money speaks. One of the best ways that I've found of doing that is to come down to money as a way of being able to prioritize, because it normalizes all of the requests from your customers and your internal business units as well. So you can have a common denominator to help prioritize. The other important thing is data-driven validation of this. Your customers might be shouting loudly that they want something and saying it's worth X to them, but actually, is it really, or are they just kicking up a lot of noise? So I think it's important to do some cross-checking of that with qualitative feedback, product usage analysis, in order to validate the real impact and say, well, are they just asking for this because it's an internal efficiency for them, or is there a real big untapped business need that they need and maybe a greater body of people need as well? I think the other thing that is really important is that we build companies and we have our own strategies. We're not here just to serve customers. We're here to build a business, but we want to get the balance between business strategy and our customer goals and requests as well. So I think what we need to do is look at things like executive feedback. How is this idea aligning to our strategy? And are we aligning ideas to our product or business strategy as well? Often you want to make sure that those ideas are coming in to deliver your product strategy, and your product strategy is there to deliver your company strategy. So a couple of ways I like to think about this, as I'm a massive fan of Itamar Gilad's confidence meter. It's about saying, okay, how confident are we in this idea coming on? It's not confidence of delivery, it's confidence of the value that it's going to deliver. And I think that's a really important one.
I love your focus on finding a common denominator like money or budget to normalize priorities, Justin. That financial fluency is exactly what separates career advancing product ops professionals from the rest. Now, Alan, you bring an interesting perspective on the role of product ops. How do you position product operations as an enabler rather than, say, a decision maker? And how has this positioning elevated your influence?
No, absolutely. So there are obviously different flavors of product ops. And in my current role, been involved in other roles as well, so that's helped, is trying to build one of the disciplines around how should we invest in the portfolio. So there's different levels to that. It can be within the squad. How should they prioritize what they're going to do in the next iteration and what's going to come out in the next release? Rising to should we be investing in this particular product at all? Versus another. There are lots of conversations around this, but one of the key parts for product operations is to provide insight into the portfolio and which products are worthy of further investment. Now, one of the things we've been doing recently is using practices that are already well known in the product management community, like a lean canvas, a business lean canvas. It's a great way of forcing focus from the product team about choosing where they want to spend their time and then presenting it effectively on a slide, having a governance meeting. So in my current organization, we have a product steerco with senior execs, and that's fed from a product execution meeting from the portfolio product management leaders. They present lean canvases of opportunities throughout the year that they want to invest in. So obviously, well, it might not be obvious. We have an annual planning cycle and a long-term planning cycle in most organizations, but the budget process is it's not a permission to spend. Having a budget is the plan, and then the permission to spend should come from business cases that are refined throughout the year. And so from a product operations perspective, what we do is we run that decision-making framework using lean canvases as the tool to help make choices. And the great thing about it is that because it's quite simple, it makes it relatively easy to make decisions. If there is a lot of complicated mathematics behind it, you can do that in supporting documents. But it also builds a library. What we've done is create a library of all these lean canvases. Some are approved, some are not. And so the next time someone comes along and wants to make a proposal, they've got if you like, a repository or a library of things to look at. And they can see what's worked and what hasn't and how to. Obviously, the very first one is the most difficult. But as time goes on, it becomes a little easier to build off what's gone before. So that's the first part, really, is the permission to go ahead. And then another key part of the governance, and still working through some of this, is how to connect both the amount of effort that has been invested in a particular opportunity versus the outcome. So to see how far along the journey we are towards the return on investment. Almost like the nirvana is to get to a point where you can have a conversation at the steerco where you may have spent half the money on something but delivered 3/4 of the outcome. And then you could choose whether do we want to continue with that, or have we done enough? And then we maybe reallocate our investment to another area. And in a way, it's a massive gearing effect on the organization to make sure that we're making those best choices.
That clarity about product ops as an enabler is so valuable, Alan. It's often what helps product ops leaders earn a seat at the strategic table. Now, over to you, Katie. You emphasize the importance of consistency. How do you maintain accountability to frameworks and processes across the organization in a way that can build your reputation as a leader?
Yeah, I think when it comes to planning, uh, consistency is key. If you're setting up a planning structure, a planning framework, it's something that needs to be replicated at whatever planning cadence you have, which typically for a lot of us is quarterly, right? Some companies might have it more extended. It might be biannual, right? Or if you're lucky enough to have annual, even better. But the key thing here is the consistency so that people can build really good habits, and understand the timings of things so that they can prepare for them, right? Because if you don't have that consistency, if you don't have that structure for your team to work on, it's going to be chaotic. That's number one. Number two, another thing to look out for are people who don't respect the framework or the process, right? And who are sort of trying to cut corners or have side conversations to say, hey, I really need you to build this. Can you insert it into your plans? Which, like, there's always going to be an element that we have to, account for those corner cases. But the grand majority of things, like 90 to 95% above, needs to follow the proper cadence of planning and the process within that. So whether that is our core rituals that we have on the product team, or any request process coming from another team, right? Those feedback loops that we were talking about. It's really important because the more fragmented conversations or the more disjointedness you allow for in your process, the higher risk it has to just fall apart and to either let things slip through the cracks, or you're ultimately not going to deliver the thing you said you were going to do. You're going to be letting someone down, or you might not be delivering the highest value thing, right? Because with these requests coming in, we want to make sure that there's substance to them in a business impact. We're assessing it on a business impact level. Yeah, totally. I think there's different aspects of business impact depending on who you're speaking to, right? So, and how someone would define what the business impact is. And that's just sort of the nature of the different functions at a company, right? So when we're asking for business impact from our revenue team, what we're really looking for is ultimately, like, what's the potential revenue upside to this in terms of MRR or ARR? How many seats are we looking at, depending if, your organization is structured around seat licenses, or if it's just a standard set fee, right? These all really help us to understand, what is the potential of doing this one feature for either one really large client, or can it be applied to several other customers, right? And so we're looking at the revenue aspect. We're looking at, is it even applicable to our ICP, right? So who's the target audience here? And all of those sort of much more business demographical considerations. Then when we start to flip it over onto how that translates on the R&D side, we're looking at things from a product perspective of, what are the activation rates, and therefore what are the adoption rates or retention, right? It's much more, I feel like, metrics focused on the product side. And then when you flip it over to the engineers, well, they're looking for, what's the level of effort here? How many engineers would we need to make this happen? How many sprints is this going to take? What's the throughput that we can have during those sprints to get, chisel down this work to make it happen? And so there's sort of all of these different languages, let's say, to assess what this business impact will be. And
That's a great insight about holding everyone accountable, Katie. I've seen how this skill creates visibility with senior leadership. Could you expand on how product operations serves, let's call it the connective tissue, between departments, and how mastering this cross-functional role has advanced your own career?
You kind of have to, I feel like in product ops, we're almost helping to be a bit of a translator to say, like, okay, this is what revenue wants. Here's their assessment on the impact. Based on that, how much do we think we can actually take on from that request? Or, is this possible to launch? How long will it take? And then we can bring it back to the revenue team and say, here's our initial estimate. And they may change their minds, and they may be like, oh, I can't wait 6 months for this, or whatever. It's like, no, I'll pick something else, and I have something else that's of higher priority. Or they might be okay with it, right? Depending on the situation. So I think it's important to not just have maybe one set way to define business impact, because there's so many different inputs to how you assess what you want to build and why that might be the best thing to build, and what what you're going to see from that, either from a customer retention standpoint of view or revenue. But it's important to make sure that if you are speaking different languages, who's your person to sort of help it tie together to make sure that everyone understands each other, and so that if you are making a decision on, hey, we're actually not going to go forward with this request, here's why, and you can really justify that why.
Thanks, Katie. It's always great to connect to product operations leaders like you. Now, for product leaders looking to put these strategic alignment principles into practice and accelerate their careers, Productboard offers a powerful solution. It's the dedicated product management platform that helps teams capture customer feedback, prioritize what to build next, and align everyone around the product roadmap, turning operational challenges into strategic advantages and making you the product ops leader everyone wants on their team. Now, aligning product ops with business strategy isn't just about supporting the business. It's essential for creating organizational impact and advancing your career. From Graham's insights on understanding business direction to Justin's weighted frameworks for evaluation, Alan's enablement perspective, and Katie's fantastic focus on consistency and connection, you now have a toolkit for transforming both how your product ops functions, delivers strategic value, and how you can position yourself for career advancement. Now, if you found value in today's insights, subscribe and join us for more product leadership wisdom, and feel free to connect to our guests on LinkedIn. They're always happy to share more insights. And for more on building effective product operations, watch our comprehensive Product Ops Playbook episode right here in the link. From me, Ross Webb, until next time, bye for now.